Okay, I mentioned that I was going to read another Passover story for you guys. So this one is A Sweet Passover by Leslie Newman and illustrated by David Slonim. A Sweet Passover. Miriam, I hope Miriam listens to this story. Miriam loved celebrating Passover at Grandma and Grandpa's house. There they are. That must be Miriam in the back seat of the car. That must be Grandma and Grandpa's house. She loved pinning a piece of lace to her hair just like Grandma did before she lit 2 tall candles and sang a special blessing to start off the Seder. She loved walking around the table with a towel draped over her arm while Mommy poured water from a white pitcher over everybody's hands. Lighting candles. There's the water pitcher. She joyfully sang the 4 questions in Hebrew and then listened as Grandpa read the answers from the Haggadah and told the story of the Jews' exodus from Egypt in his deep, booming voice. She giggled at the way Daddy said, warm, warmer, hot, as she got closer and closer to finding the afikomen that he had hidden after he broke the middle matzah in half and tucked one of the pieces between 2 of Grandma's cookbooks high on a kitchen shelf. She happily stood beside Aunt Rachel and Uncle Nathan when they opened the front door to welcome Elijah the prophet, and she laughed when Bubbly joined them and howled at the full moon. Miriam loved everything about Passover, but most of all, she loved eating matzah. And during the 8-day festival, she ate as much of the unleavened bread as she could. On the first day of Passover, Miriam and Grandma ate matzah with butter. On the second day of Passover, Miriam and Grandpa ate matzah with jelly. On the third day of Passover, Miriam and Aunt Rachel ate matzah with tuna salad. That's my favorite one so far. On the fourth day of Passover, Miriam and Uncle Nathan ate matzah with egg salad. Oh, yum. On the 5th day of Passover, Miriam and Mommy ate matzah with cream cheese. On the 6th day of Passover, Miriam and Daddy ate matzah with cottage cheese. On the 7th day of Passover, Miriam ate lots of matzah by herself. She ate the matzah with almond butter and matzah with apple butter. She ate matzah with blueberry jam and matzah with strawberry jam. That's a lot of matzah. She ate plain matzah, egg matzah, whole wheat matzah, and chocolate-covered matzah. All week long, Miriam ate nothing but matzah, matzah, matzah. When she woke up on the last day of Passover, what do you guys see? She's got a blanket with matzah even. Miriam was sick, sick, sick of matzah. All she wanted for breakfast was a thick slice of warm toast or a soft, chewy bagel or a sweet cinnamon donut or a freshly baked blueberry muffin. But Passover wasn't over until sundown, which meant that Miriam had to wait all day long before she could eat any of those things. Miriam, Grandpa called from downstairs. Time for breakfast. Miriam groaned and pulled the blankets over her head. Miriam, Grandpa called again. I'm not hungry, Miriam called back. Are you sure? Grandpa asked. I'm making French toast. Ooh, I'm coming. Miriam jumped out of bed, dressed herself, and ran downstairs. So she's excited about French toast. Because what's French toast made out of? Bread, right? And there was Grandpa with an apron tied around his waist and a puffy chef's hat perched on his head. Good morning, Grandpa gave Miriam a hug and a kiss on the kepi, the head. Ready for some French toast? Miriam looked at the counter where Grandpa had placed eggs, milk, butter, and a frying pan. Where's the bread? She asked. Bread? I can't eat bread. I can't use bread. It's still Passover, Grandpa reminded her. That's why I'm using matzah. Matzah, Miriam moaned. How can you make French toast with matzah? I'm making Passover French toast, Grandpa explained. I'm making matzah brei. Matzah brei? Yuck. Miriam folded her arms. I'm never eating matzah again. Never? That's too bad, Grandpa said. You don't know what you're missing. And then he began to cook. Who's had matzah brei before? I have. It's pretty good. First, Grandpa crumpled up the matzah and soaked it in warm water. Next, he cracked some eggs into a bowl and added a little milk and beat the mixture with a fork. So this is almost like a how-to book, guys, right? This is how to make matzah brei. First, crumble the matzah, then add some milk. That's step 2, right? Step 1, step 2. That's fun, a how-to book. Then he drained the matzah and poured the beaten eggs and milk over it. Finally, perfect word, transition word, Grandpa sliced butter into a great big frying pan. That's what step he's at. As soon as the butter began to sizzle, he poured in the uncooked matzah brei. When it was brown at the edges, Grandpa slipped his hands into a pair of oven mitts, placed a large plate on the top of the frying pan, and flipped the whole thing over. Ta-da! Crowed Grandpa. Passover French toast. Doesn't that look delicious? Let's see if Miriam wants to eat it or not. No, said Miriam, wrinkling up her nose. No more matzah for me. Suit yourself. Grandpa slid the matzah brei back into the pan to cook the other side. Will you please set the table? Miriam took out the special Passover plates and put one at each place. Just as she set down the last fork and spoon, Mommy and Daddy and Aunt Rachel and Uncle Nathan and Grandma scrambled into the dining room. They scrambled in. They must be excited, right? Mommy spooned applesauce on top of her matzah brei. Daddy poured maple syrup over his piece. Aunt Rachel sprinkled her serving with cinnamon and sugar. Uncle Nathan smothered his slice with sour cream. Grandma added salt and pepper to her matzah brei, and Grandpa left his plain. So everyone in their family has a different way of eating matzah brei, all different ways that they like, different toppings. Grandpa picked up his fork and said, "Eat in good health and enjoy." "Oi, is that good?" said Grandma. "Best I've ever had," added Mommy. "May I please have seconds?" asked Uncle Nathan. "Save another piece for me," said Aunt Rachel. "Compliments to the chef," said Daddy. So the whole family is really enjoying this matzah brei. They were so busy eating, no one noticed that Miriam had nothing on her plate. Soon breakfast was all over and all was quiet until Miriam's belly let out a long, loud rumble. "Miriam, didn't you get enough to eat?" Mommy asked. "No," Miriam answered. "Miriam is never eating matzah again," Grandpa announced to everybody. Mommy, Daddy, Aunt Rachel, Uncle Nathan, Grandma all gasped. "Never?" "Not even on Passover?" asked Mommy. "But Miriam, we always eat matzah on Passover. How else will we remember that our ancestors were slaves in Egypt? And when Pharaoh granted them freedom, they had to leave in such a rush they couldn't even wait for the bread dough to rise. How else will we remember that even the plainest food eaten in freedom tastes sweeter than the fanciest food eaten in slavery? Daddy asked. Never is a long time, right? That's a strong statement. That's why we say, have a sweet Passover, Grandma told Miriam. Matzah is such a simple food. It reminds us to be humble, explained Uncle Nathan. It doesn't puff itself up. It doesn't brag, and we shouldn't puff ourselves up or brag either. It's a mitzvah to eat matzah, Aunt Rachel added, a good deed. And just as the matzah was baked in a hurry, we should always be in a hurry to do a good deed whenever we can. Matzah goes with everything, Grandpa said, and that reminds us that we should get along with everyone too. And if all those reasons weren't enough for us, Dayenu, Grandma said. Your grandfather happens to make the best matzah brie in the world. Miriam looked around the table at each member of the family and thought over what everyone had said. Then she asked in her most humble voice, Grandpa, will you please make me a matzah brie? I'm sorry, Miriam, said Grandpa, patting his big round belly. I'm too full to cook. Please, Grandpa, said Miriam. Pretty please with applesauce on top. Is Grandpa going to make her some matzah brie? Let's see. No, said Grandpa. I'm not going to make you matzah brie. Why not? Said Miriam. Because, said Grandpa, handing her an apron and a puffy chef's hat, we're going to make a matzah brie together. Miriam crumbled up the matzah and beat the eggs while Grandpa melted butter in the frying pan. Miriam poured the uncooked matzah brie into the pan and watched as Grandpa fried it up. When the matzah brie was ready, Grandpa set a great big piece in front of Miriam. Eat in good health and enjoy. And Miriam did. And then at the end of the book, it has the directions, the recipe on how to make matzah brie. It's pretty tasty. I like mine with maple syrup. Okay, guys, I'll talk to you later.